Okay, so a pleasant afternoon, everybody. So I would like to welcome everyone, or each and every one of you, to our English class under by the TCC, the Global Community College. So for this time, allow me to formally acknowledge or to introduce myself. So I am actually Teacher Carlo, and I will be the discussant. I will be the sharer for today's content. Okay, so for the table of contents for the coverage of our topic for this time, we will be dealing with the contemporary literature, the popular literature, and at the same time the emergent literature. Okay, so hello, my name is Teacher Carlo Muñez. You are highly welcomed and appreciated. So for all of my students, and at the same time for those who are currently viewing my video. So again, I repeat, I am Teacher Carlo Muñez, and I will be your English teacher for today's content. Okay, so for the continuation, so as what I actually mentioned earlier, that we will be dealing with the three literatures, particularly to contemporary, popular, and as well as the emergent literature. Okay, so if you will talk about what is contemporary literature, so to stick with its first definition, we actually have here what is contemporary literature. So we are actually being asked what is exactly contemporary literature. Okay, so basically when we talk about contemporary literature as it actually being defined here, contemporary literature tells us about stories which scholars believed started right after the World War II in 1940 and ended by 1960. So all you have to remember that when you actually hear the word contemporary literature, it actually started in the year 1940, because I believe we do all have an idea what is actually and when did exactly World War II happened, even though we were not yet born during those times. So all you have to remember that when you actually hear the word contemporary literature, it actually started right after the World War II. So let me say in 1940 until 1960. So it has its existence of 8 years. And also for the second definition, the word contemporary denotes modern, current, or present. So contemporary literature, it simply tells us about literature that is actually current, that is actually present. And also we also have here the third definition. Here belongs the reality-based stories with strong characters and believable stories. So under by the contemporary literature, majority of the stories are actually reality-based. So basically most of the stories under by this literature are actually non-fiction, because non-fiction, it talks about the reality, or let me say the existence of everything in our world, or in a planet where we actually live, and at the same time with strong characters and believable stories. So even though most of the stories are just stories themselves, still they're actually being believable under by the contemporary literature. And also, so much for that about contemporary literature. So let's proceed to the what is popular literature. Okay, so popular literature from the first, I'm so sorry for the popular literature. It is a kind of much more. I am very much sorry. Okay, so for the continuation, so we actually have here what is popular literature. So another question is actually being arise. So for the first definition, it is a kind of much more evolutionized than the traditional forms in contemporary. It started up to 1960 up to 20th century. So if contemporary literature, it actually started from 1940 to 1960. So popular literature, it began to rise during right after the World War II from 1960 up to 20th century. So it has shown wide and continued acceptance, measured by scales, the latest imitation, adaptation to other cultural forms, and general commercial success. So why is it that popular literature, it's a kind of more imitation, it's more on adaptation? Because that's why it's actually called popular. It's different from the contemporary, the previous literature itself. So and at the same time, it actually has its general commercial success in a way that in our times today, there are actually a lot of technologies. There are actually a lot of devices that we can actually utilize as we go along with our living as people. Technology with all the advancement of science, we all have now of technology. That's why technology is something that makes our life easier and better. And it's something that we should also appreciate aside from the air we breathe, aside from the food we eat, and at the same time the place we live. So it's technology is also something that we must gratify because under the popular literature, most of the stories are actually already being empowered by technology. So of course, the word popular denotes prominent or famous. So I believe I was able to define already its term. It denotes with prominent or famous. That's why it's actually called popular, because it's actually prominent. It's actually famous. And for the last literature, we actually have here the emergent literature. So for this one, allow me to introduce this one. So it's not actually emergent, it's emergent. So what is emergent literature? Okay, so emergent literature, it is the most progressive yet quite technical among previous literatures. What is it? If contemporary, it's more on stories that are actually believable. If popular, it's more on the stories that are actually being empowered by technology. So on the other hand, emergent literature is the most progressive yet quite technical, because basically we talk about emergent literature, a lot of times have passed. So in this time, in this literature, in this era, it's more on the combination of the traditional, which is actually the contemporary literature, as well as with the popular literature. And at the same time, for the last meaning of emergent literature, it is basically the integration of the traditional with the contribution of the modern patterns. So exactly, it is exactly from the definition being stated, because emergent literature, as what I actually said, it's actually the cultivation. It's synonymously with the integration of the traditional, or let me say, it's the mixture. It's more on the mixture of the traditional and as well as with the modern patterns, or what we have nowadays. Okay, so for the last one, so thank you for your attention, and I will no longer discuss everything because I only have given 8 minutes or 5 to 18 minutes to discuss my part. So I am somehow expecting that you learn from my discussion for this time, and may God bless us all.